So we're going to bring out Bear Love again. Don't come out yet because I want to do like a really formal introduction. And then I'm going to go get a broom and sweep all this up because it's all over everything. So now, give it up for Bear Love. I'm gonna yeah, I can't get that.
Comic season his whole life.
Up here.
All right. How we doing? It's been a long time since I've seen some of you. Can you guys hear me? I feel like I'm doing a symposium. No. Yeah, okay. Well, can we hear it?
It looks good.
All right. Well, you're at your TED Talk, your golden TED Talk. We're going to talk about Burning Man survival. Everybody heard of Burning Man? Woo. It's a festival out in the desert. It started in San Francisco, but it has progressed to the biggest party in America, and 70,000 of us out in the desert. And I didn't know that to know the Burning Man survival, you have to know, one, the rules of psychedelics. There's rules. Right. Water's wet, fire's hot, and you can't fly. Yeah, and red and blue lights are not cool. So that's the beginning, but I didn't know there was one more key rule of Burning Man, which is don't forget your goggles. Because it's in the desert, you know, and there's dust storms out there. You know, and so, sometimes you pull the psychedelic Russian roulette if it's going to be a good night or if it's going to be a crazy night. For me, I ended up meeting the girl of my dreams. I was running around, following her, and Burning Man's like Disneyland for people on acid. And so we're like riding the rides, you know, we're going on all the stuff, seeing the DJs, and everything's cool except for she's got a friend from her hometown with her that's just the tag-along.
Classic.
Right? You know, there's names for these people. Cock blocker, you know. But it was so funny because Burning Man is like a costume party. And so his costume was the funniest part. He was a tourist, like a beach tourist with the sunscreen on his nose. You know, old school in the movies, they used to do this dork with the sunscreen on his nose and the big hat. Like, ready for the beach, you know, with the flip-flops. That was his costume. All right, I'm like a superhero. She's dressed up as a unicorn. It's a pretty cheesy costume. But we're running around thing to thing, and he's just not getting the point. You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro, look at all 69,000 other people out here. Just, you know. So, I didn't know about this goggles thing, and a real crazy sandstorm started whipping up, kind of like what happened here. And basically, so there is this big teepee, and literally, we're getting pelted by sand. We run inside this teepee, and there's this big guy, and he goes, "Welcome to Munchkin Land," which I guess we found a massage camp. And they boarded us in there, right, as soon as, just so we could get out of the dust storm. And I guess a massage camp at Burning Man is only not an orgy for 33 minutes. But I was in there for 34. And it was dark enough, and it was a massage tent, and I'm over here rubbing his shoulders. I didn't know we were going here, but it kind of became a one-up where he's rubbing her feet. Then I'm rubbing her arm, you know, and I didn't realize the other 49 massage couples are watching this game. And they're like, are we good? Are we taking it there? Are we taking it there? And we took it there. And seize the moment. And it's a Burning Man orgy. So we've got unicorn over here doing their thing. Two people are dressed up as a raccoon, and they were just getting into the cooler. Not lying. But so this crazy orgy's going on. Real crazy. I got lucky. I leave there, and my friend, it was his first Burning Man experience too. And like I said, Russian roulette. He had no goggles. Burning Man is set up like a C. And the closer that's S went on, then it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way out. He was way on the edge of Burning Man's outside, and there's different themed camps. And he found one that was written in Christmas lights. And you could barely, there was an anal in the Christmas lights. And the rest was bleh. We put it together, it was anal bead camp. The real place at Burning Man. So, he's on acid, the same acid as me, and you know, acid's not a super sexual drug, you know. So he gets in the tent and he doesn't know what's gonna happen in anal bead camp. So he opens it's a circus style tent in the middle of the desert, and he gets in there, and there's bunch of little anal beads on a table, and there's a nice young lady who's on the table like this. And he's like, she's for real, and this acid's very good. So he gets in there, and he's like, I gotta go hard or go home right about now. And so my buddy, he ends up, he's going for it. It's Burning Man, right? This is stuff you tell your kids about. So, hopefully not, I don't know. So, but either way, he goes up there, and he thinks it's a joke still till he gets to there. And there's different sizes of anal beads, like Goldilocks, this one's perfect size, this one. And so, he doesn't want to offend her, so he goes middle of the road. Just your average anal bead, And so, basically, he gets up there, and there's gloves and KY jelly. And so he's all in. He's here. This is a workshop. And he gets up there, and she does like a whole move where she swings, and he's like, this is for real. And so he's just here and right there. So I die. And so he does it. He doesn't know how this works, so he just pops one in at a time. And she just doesn't make any, not even a ooh, just nothing. So he's like, okay. Gets them all in, nothing. He's like, does she like this or not? She built the whole camp. And he's like, it's probably the speed. It's probably the speed. So like he's starting a lawnmower. He goes to pull him back out. He wants to help her. So, and he didn't bring his goggles, and the shit hit the fan. Literally. So, there's no rules at Burning Man, but there are suggestions. My name is Bear, and I've always been called Bear since I was very young, unless I was hitchhiking through Mexico, and then they thought I was saying my name was Beer. They're like, this American party so much, he named himself Beer. And so I'd say it in Spanish. I'd say, no, oso, oso. And they would all make the same joke from north to south in the whole country. They'd say, oso, oso polar, polar bear. Yes, big white bear, big white bear. But, Mexico's crazy. Anybody party in Mexico? Yes, it's wild, wild. You get a tattoo you regret, fight with your friends, adopt a kid. Not everyone? Okay. We adopted a kid. It was 19, but he was wandering around at this party. We went down to a international rainbow gathering party. It was a month-long party, which I guess I skipped past that. It was once
I'm gonna have you film my search effort.
So that's how this kid tagged along for a week with us, right? And there's the sad part of the story. He came with us all these surf spots, and we left that party, and we go to cross the border, and he's like, I can't do that. I guess he did some stupid stuff with the law in LA, and lost his paperwork, and he was on the wrong side of the fence. And so I was feeling pretty lucky to be who I was, and I was about to go back to my house in San Diego, and I said, listen up, time out. 19-year-old kid hitchhiking all the way down to Guadalajara. I'm very big. You speak Spanish, we're gonna get each other to your grandpa's house. So I hitchhiked through the whole country as his protector, which ended up being his big white billboard that said, please rob these two. Yeah. He got mad by the end. He was like, bro, you've got us robbed 4 times.
So, down here.
By the police, which was mostly a ticket. It was mostly a ticket. We were drinking on the boardwalk. Everybody else was drinking on the boardwalk, but big billboard could not.
But I want to shoot it with 4K.
So I get him there, and I'm already down there. I'm speaking some decent Spanish. And he tells me in exchange for this ride, 3 days down in New Mexico, he tells
when you
me
get out there and
where
you're
this
situated
little thing is called a
and
peyote
hitting the
desert.
tube, just find
And
out
so, this is where it gets a little interesting. Now, I'm like, do I A, hitchhike 10 more hours towards this peyote desert, or get my ass back to the border? And I'm feeling a little froggy, and so I decided to keep going. And I get to the peyote field, and I literally had to take a bus to a tunnel, where we took another bus through a side of a mountain, and then I had to pay someone to take me on a Jeep to the middle of nowhere, where there was a guy named El Jefe de la Desierto, the chief of the desert. But before I got to El Jefe, I'm walking around this town called Real de Catorce, and there's this actual store. This is 4 days down into Mexico, and there's a store that's called Hippie Store. Not in English, Hippie Store. And I just like walk in and I just like show up like, hey, me, I made it. And there's 2 kids in there that were like hipster Mexican cats. And I'm like, yo, necesito tomar la peyote. I need to eat some peyote. And they go, oh, you can get it at any store here in town, at any restaurant.
We're gonna come on from the
And
other
I'm
side.
like, where are we?
We're gonna come on
And
from the
so
other side.
he sends me
Come on
down
the
to a
other side.
restaurant. And I go up and ask somebody's grandma, necesito un sopa de peyote. And she goes, oh, okay. And then I think about it real quick. And I say, this is too easy. So I said to her as she was leaving, con mescalina? And she, like I said, I swear, no. I asked somebody's grandma for mescal. And so I go back to the hippie store and I just open the door and I go, con mescalina? And they all go, oh, they realize they sent me into town to ask somebody's grandma for peyote. And so that was not the direction to the peyote. They eat the stalk of it. You know, there was no active ingredient in the soup. You know, so I end up, you could either take a horse or a Jeep. But I saw the people that were riding out on the Jeep. We were allowed to ride on the top. So that was the crazy, I wish we had the peyote before, because we were riding through. We get there, and so I go up, and none of the locals want anything to do with peyote. Same as the old lady. No, but there was these kids that kept asking me for cigarettes. I'm like, these kids are going to tell me where the peyote is. And they're like, we won't tell you anything, but you want to find the house with the red door. I was like, a treasure hunt? Awesome. I do Instacart, which is kind of like a treasure hunt. And so we're doing a treasure hunt. And I'm on a peyote treasure hunt, and I'm like military checking every house in this whole little town, like for a red door. And I finally get to a red door, and there's music going on, like there's a party there. And I walk up, my billboard ass walks up, and the music shuts off. Oh. Hippies are the same everywhere. It's a cop. Shut the music off. So, but I go up and I'm knocking on the red door, and in the stucco there is a perfectly nice drawn peyote bug. And I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, this is great. This is so great. So, but I didn't want to like freak them out, so they were not answering the door for Weirdo. You know, so I left and I go to the center of town, and there is this guy who also has a backpack. You can tell he's not local, he's a traveler. He's got a camping backpack. And I look up, and it's this guy from Poland. And I don't know, I don't normally can see energy or see auras or anything of that. This dude's energy was shimmering. Like you can tell he had peyote in him. Like, he looked different than the other people. And so I didn't have enough money to eat a tostada, but I went and sat next to him where he was buying tostadas, and I bought a tostada. And I said to him, you're going to show me where the peyote is. And he was really intense. He was from Poland. He goes, I just spent 3 days in the belly of the beast. He goes, I'm no better than our Lord. He goes, I will take you to the peyote tomorrow. We're drinking tequila in my room tonight. I swear to God. Wow. So, have you heard of Lost in Translation? My poor Polish altar boy in the Catholic Church of Poland was speaking his third language, which is Spanish. His second language is obviously English. His first language is Polish. Translation can get lost. He said, oh, I'm spiritual. I'm on a sabbatical from my church from Argentina to Canada. Here I am in Mexico. And the Mexican said, oh, espirito? We're about to go eat a spiritual food. Peyote. This poor guy has never eaten a drug in his life. And he goes, gee golly, a spiritual food? I must know. And so he goes out there, and it's a long story, and there's more to the story. But I followed the Polish man into the desert. And so there's an old joke there. You know, why did the hippie not come back from the desert? He was too far out, right? Yeah. So, but right when I gave up, I was like, I'm going to die following this man in the desert. I set my bag down, and right there was 15 peyote buttons right next to my bag. So we ended up eating some, and I get back to town, and there's this girl who has an address to this other property where they were going to show her this shaman, El Jefe. We've heard about him. And so we had just had a cool experience, so we ended up hitchhiking with them to El Jefe's property. And he had like 15 different groups of people from all over the world that were doing it on his property. And I get there, and I'll leave you with this. But guess what El Jefe had with him?
What?
It was a picture of one of our celebrities here in America. Guess who went tripping with El Jefe down in Mexico? It was Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right. All right, guys, let's bring out your next guy.
Yes, let's do it. Bear love, bear love. A hippie and a guy from Poland walked into a peyote bar. And no, I sound like